Welcome back to the Make and Break Society. In this one, we're going to do the soldering for the PSPi version 6. There are only two must-have items to do this job. The first is a soldering iron, and the second is some solder. However, I highly recommend having a few other things, like a pair of tweezers, a flash drive or two, and if you got the CM4 carrier board, grab your thermal pad. It makes it a lot easier to solder the joystick pads on. Now, let's get into it. Now the first part of this project that we'll be soldering is the headphone board. We solder the headphone jack to the 4 pads on the back of the board. There are 2 alignment spots, the hole in the middle and this notch here at the bottom. They will line up with these 2 spots on the headphone board. Place the jack so it lines up best you can and solder down one leg, and then we're going to check the alignment. You can see in mine, my center dot looks like it's aligned properly, but the other one isn't pressed right up against the board. To fix that, we'll heat it back up and push the jack back a few millimeters. Once it looks aligned, solder the last 3 legs. Alright, these solder points look good, and they'd work perfectly. But I'm going to clean them up a little bit, because this system is going to be given away to one of you guys. That's much better. Now let's move on to the main board. Next up, we'll be installing the barrel connector to the top right hand side of the main board. Notice this pin at the bottom of the connector? It can be really difficult to solder because not much of it actually sticks out. So first we're going to solder one of the top pins, and then we'll solder this bottom one. It makes checking if it's actually soldered down a little bit easier. To check, take tweezers and carefully try to lift the connector from the bottom. If it moves, then that pin is not soldered down correctly and you'll have to try again. If it doesn't move, then you can move on to soldering the last pin. All done. Like last time, I'll be cleaning this one up a bit. They could be left just like this and they'd work perfectly fine. On to the thumbstick pins. Last step, the pins for the thumbstick. Be careful with these. If you drop them, they're almost impossible to find. I've already lost one of them. Luckily, OtherMod includes a few extras. Now notice that we have one side that's bigger. That's the top. Place the other side into the 4 holes. Tweezers are highly recommended here. They'll make your life a whole lot easier. Now at this step, if you've chosen not to solder these, place a piece of clear tape over them. Just make sure that when it's time to install the main board into your PSP shell, to remove the tape slowly and carefully so you don't pull the pins out. Now if you're soldering, grab the thermal pad and stick it on top of those pins. If you don't have a thermal pad, you'll have to find some other way to hold the pins in place when we flip over the board. Most tape won't work for this as it'll melt. Once you flip the board over, we're going to solder all the pads. Just be careful not to push on them so they don't stick out on the other side. And once again, I'm going to clean up these points a bit because this is getting given away. Now you can remove your thermal pad or whatever else you use to hold it. Just make sure the thermal pad goes back into the bag because we're going to need it for assembly. That's it for soldering. You are now ready to begin disassembly of your PSP and installing the PSPi. This is the PSP I'm going to be using for parts. Now remember, I will be giving this PSP away once we hit 1,000 subscribers. You don't need to be subscribed to win, but you should get subscribed so you don't miss the giveaway video. Winners will have a few options. They can have the PSPi installed into this black shell or this aftermarket clear shell. The winner will also get to pick what operating system they'll like pre-installed. In the next video, I'll be installing the PSPi into the clear shell, and if the winner would prefer the black shell, I'll move the parts over. And that's it. If you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Let's get us to 1,000. And until next time, remember, it doesn't matter if you make or break, as long as you're having fun.